Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. You're listening to Our D&D Game. I'm your host, the Dungeon Master, and in today's game, Artie, the Werebear, um, goes back to the bar where Oog is. Um, Oog, if you didn't catch that video, he is the creation of a magic user. He's a mixture of various D&D monsters who are big and strong, like giants, ogres, orcs, trolls. He's a mixture of all these different races. Um, and the DM when he was created was Joe Pulcini. The player was John Loy. And Joe let John just kind of cherry pick whichever one of those monsters had the highest strength, that was Oog's strength. Whichever one had the highest agility, that was Oog's agility. So Oog is this just unstoppable force, right? And when last we saw him, he was in this bar in the mountains. It's very cold there. And the bartender, uh, his whole setup is there's a jar of gold coins on the bar. And the idea is an adventurer can come in, and if they want to fight Oog, they put a gold coin in the jar, and then they give a second gold coin to the bartender. If they beat Oog, they get all the gold in the jar. The bartender always keeps his gold, of course. That's his take. So Oog is the champion. He's never been beaten. Um, at any rate, the last time Artie was here, and Artie is a werebear, Artie has been working on being able to control his werebear form. It's kind of like when he was first infected, he would go berserk. He would hurt people he didn't want to hurt, so on and so forth. And so, at any rate, that's been years now, and Artie is better at it, right? It's not perfect, but he's getting there. And at any rate, he has done some adventuring, and he has a jar of gold of his own. And so he comes back to this bar and he puts the jar of gold on the bar. And he comes at midday. The crowds come in the evening to watch Oog um, kill, basically. The town here is uh, bloodthirsty, and they love watching Oog hurt people, right? So at any rate, the bear puts the jar on the bar, and the bartender asks, what's up with that? And the bear says, I don't know if you remember me. And the bartender does not. And he explains, he goes, years ago, I was here with my friends, and my friend John stole your jar of gold. The bartender says, it's not actually his gold. He said, the jar has been stolen more than once over the years, and it belongs to whoever the champion is, right? Whoever wins. And he says he keeps his gold hidden. The when people pay him the gold piece to even participate, that's elsewhere. So Artie, the bear, says, I understand what you're saying, but nonetheless, all these years, because Artie is lawful good. He says he feels bad that things went like they did, and it's bothered him this whole time. And so now that he has a jar of gold of his own, he thought he should give it to him. Even though he wasn't the one that took it, he thought, that was my party that did that. He thought he was kind of responsible. So the bartender happily takes his money, you know. Um, and so Artie orders something to eat. He's going to stay for lunch. And he goes over and sits down at a table. Oog is in the ring. They have kind of like a wrestling ring. And it's not exactly like a wrestling ring. It's like a wooden platform with kind of a fence around it. But the DM who came up with it obviously had a wrestling ring in mind, or a boxing ring if you prefer. But at any rate, Oog is sitting in his corner of the ring, and he's got his arms up on the fences, and they sort of creak under the weight of his massive arms. He's got a 10-foot reach. Gives you an idea of how big this guy is. And at any rate, he remembers the bear. And in his broken speech, he asks where the bear's friends are. And for Oog, that's like, where friends? So the bear says, they're dead now. And Oog says, sad. And the bear nods. He thinks it's sad too. If you've been following the channel, by the way, we left it ambiguous if the bear, in his rage, killed his friends, or was it the werebear who gave him lycanthropy? Did that one kill the friends? Like, we really don't know, because the bear just comes to. He blacks out when it happens, and he comes to afterwards. At least then he did. He retains his consciousness now. But at any rate, he explains, and Oog steps over the fence and sits down on the floor next to the bear's table, because the chairs here won't hold him or anything. But he can sit Indian style on the floor and then like put his elbows on the table, and then he pretty much takes up the whole table. But he waves to the bartender and he says, "Drink, drink." And so the bartender has this like small barrel, and he fills it with ale, and he brings it over and sets it in front of Oog, and Oog slides it over to the bear. This is Oog trying to buy the bear a drink since his friends are dead. So the bear takes him up on it. And the only thing that can really, well, I shouldn't word it that way. The bear's weakness is cold iron, right? It's not ale. So the bear can drink, right? And Oog for sure can drink. His problem is fire. Um, so at any rate, these two can really pack it away. So they drink, and weirdly enough, they kind of become friends. And the conversation is kind of like, basically, the bear says he's a monster. He explains that he thinks he killed his friends. Whether he's right or wrong, that's a whole other conversation. But he thinks he did. He has decided that he did. And so Oog, when the bear refers to himself as a monster, Oog asks if he's a monster. Is Oog monster? And the bear's not sure how to answer that, because Oog is green according to the monsters manual, or however you want to look at it. In D&D terms, if you wanted to use, they got like charm person and charm monster and all that stuff. For sure, monster is the word that applies to Oog, right? But the bear doesn't want to say that. He doesn't want to call him a monster to his face. And at any rate, Oog says, basically, Oog thinks Oog great. Oog love Oog. And Artie appreciates that, that it's like, it's this bizarre pep talk in a way. And Oog is trying to get Artie to see the glass as half full rather than half empty. You know what I mean? He's trying to turn him into an optimist. So at any rate, the bear kind of asks Oog, like, why do you stay here? Like, do you like hurting people? And Oog doesn't care about that. And the bear asks Oog what he does care about. And Oog um, points to the jar of gold. And Oog likes shinies. That's what he calls not just a gold piece. He'll call a gold piece a shiny, or a silver piece or a platinum piece. They're all the same to him. They're just shiny, right? But he likes gems. He likes all sorts of stuff if it's shiny. And so at any rate, Artie says, but they don't let you have that gold. That's for whoever beats you. And Oog says, no one beat Oog. Oog best. And the bear's like, I promise you though, if someone beats you, they're taking that gold. And at any rate, long story short, the bear actually convinces Oog that this job sucks, right? And that he should quit. And he does. And he goes up and he takes the jar, and the bartender, for a second, forgets who he's talking to. He's spent too much time around Oog. He doesn't appreciate the part where Oog can rip a guy apart, right? He just sees Oog as that dumb guy that he sees every day. You know what I mean? Who can like barely talk. And he's like, hey, put that down. Tries to scold Oog. But Oog says, Shinies for champ. Oog am champ. And when he says it, he's getting slightly angry. And so there's an intimidation check there. And Oog is very intimidated. So the bartender gets scared, doesn't want to, question him. And so Oog walks out the door with his jar of shinies, quote unquote. The bartender just lets this happen because what else is he going to do? So the bear and Oog head out together and do some adventuring. Um, and if you've been following the channel, we're in the Roman Empire era here. And a lot of the inspiration was based on old Harryhausen movies. He did a lot of stuff back in the day with like stop motion skeletons and stuff like that. So Oog and the bear end up fighting a giant scorpion, and the scorpion stings the bear, but it doesn't kill the bear, right? It makes the bear angry enough that Artie hulks out and he turns into his werebear mode. Now, mind you, he's got a grip on it these days, right? But he still goes over and is beating on this scorpion. And Oog loves this. First of all, he loves that the bear is so big that they can smash stuff together. He thinks that's just fantastic, right? But in this moment, like once the scorpion is dead, Oog goes over and he starts petting the bear. And the bear can talk a little bit. He's like, what are you doing? And Oog just says, kitty. And he's patting him. He's like, kitty, kitty. And so in this moment, John, the player who plays Oog, John Loy, he said Oog decided that the bear is his cat, that this is his pet cat now. And so they continue adventuring. And the idea is when the bear fails a saving throw and he gets out of hand, because again, he doesn't quite have a handle on things. Again, mostly, not fully, right? When things go south, though, Oog is the one of the only ones around who's strong enough. He just kind of picks the bear up and is like, bad kitty. And he just sort of holds him against his will and pets him against his will. And the bear can't really do much in that circumstance. And even if he like claws Oog or something, it's like a person holding a cat and they get clawed, right? So Oog just sort of like smacks the bear or something, like bad kitty. Um, you get the idea. I could go on about that forever. And then Oog and the bear were in multiple adventuring parties together. Honestly, none of those stories, you know, stand out as, something amazing that I feel like I'll cram into this video. Um, I remember there was a gorilla played by James Porch, and we had thought he was going to kind of join our merry band of monsters at one point. And James was very young, and he had, I think, kind of a chip on his shoulder. I don't want to speak for James. I might get him on the channel here at some point. He could speak for himself then. We still talk, but I think James was bullied a lot as a kid, and so he got really mouthy for a while when he was a teenager. And that came out when he played D&D, is he would just insult people, and he would insult um the bear, and it didn't matter. Like if you call Oog stupid, on paper, Oog really is stupid. John played him as having a kind of a simple wisdom about him, though. Like Oog still knew about self-confidence when the bear was kind of wallowing in guilt and feeling bad, pity for himself and stuff like that. So even Oog is not completely stupid, right? Um, but James would just kind of call everybody stupid. And he played this gorilla that was, I believe, a wizard. It was like a talking gorilla. And so when we first met James, I remember the first game he was in, we thought, oh, the gorilla's a big guy, he's strong. That's kind of the theme here, is where the odd men out, in an otherwise mundane adventuring party. But yeah, I remember James was like, you guys are idiots, blah blah blah. So we didn't really let him be part of our little clique. Um, I don't know whatever happened to that guy. I would assume he died. At any rate, I'm getting off topic. But yeah, that's the story of Oog and his pet kitty, Artie the Werebear. I hope that you were amused. If so, hit the like button, hit subscribe, ring the bell, leave us a comment, all that jazz, and we'll catch you in the next one. Bye.